Well, joining me now to discuss this story is global events analyst Marco Vicenzino. So, Marco, what does the UN need to do in this situation?
Basically is to ensure that all sides comply with the ceasefire, ensure the effective delivery of desperately needed aid, and if possible, to not exclude the possibility of eventually sending in a peacekeeping force. The first two, in terms of compliance with the ceasefire and the delivery of aid, are of immediate importance. The idea of the international peacekeeping force, that's something that needs to be discussed. It's a separate option, but a very important one, which may be needed if both sides fail to reach any sort of long-term agreement on their own.
And the Houthi rebels weren't at these talks today in Riyadh. What do you think the importance of this meeting was?
Well, for President Hadi, the officially recognized, internationally recognized president of Yemen, it's of enormous symbolic importance because he can show to the world that he's bringing in many sides under one umbrella. Over 400 people that attended. Obviously, the Houthis didn't attend, and some other factions within the rebel movement. But as a result, I think for Hadi, it was very, very much important to show that he's president and that he's calling the shots. So for international media in particular, it was very important, but also to be able to at least begin a dialogue with many of the factions within the country and to leave the door open for the Houthis and those who have not come to the table yet. It's a start. Not an easy one, but it's a start.
Yeah, absolutely. And we heard that 10 people were killed in the southern city of Taiz. So not all the country is observing the ceasefire at the moment. What effect could a peacekeeping force have, do you think, in a situation where rules and I guess you could say regulations aren't being necessarily adhered to by everybody?
Basically, if the ceasefire, it's a 5-day ceasefire, it's going to be renewed. And if possible, the idea is to create a sequence of ceasefires whereby you can build up the diplomatic momentum to bring the sides, all different sides, to the table eventually at some point, to be determined. Not sure yet. Sure. If they begin the process of talks and the talks are not able to go beyond a certain point because there basically is no trust, the UN has a key role as a consensus builder and may ultimately require foreign forces to be able to enforce some sort of agreement or a ceasefire, guarantors of peace, not to be actively fighting there, but to make sure that all sides comply. Once again, there's no trust, so they need a third-party mediator, and the UN needs to play a key role in that.
The meeting today was designed to create political stability in the country and create a roadmap for the future. Could the Houthi rebels essentially play a role of some sort in any future government?
I don't think a final long-term settlement will not be possible without the participation of the Houthis. Their seat at the table is waiting for them. When they go is yet to be determined. But without their participation, without their involvement, there can be no long-term settlement. They are a key part in this conflict. They are basically the fighting force of the rebel movement, and the internationally recognized government is fully aware of that. Although the Houthis didn't attend today's meetings in Riyadh, they know that eventually, without their participation, there'll be no peace in Yemen.
The Houthis, of course, affiliated with the Iranian Shiite regime. What do you think that, and also there's a sort of a line to the President Saleh regime too, aren't they, the former president of Yemen? So what do you think that the Saudi-led coalition has to fear if this group is on the rise? Basically,
from the Saudi perspective, the way the Saudis view the region, they want to stem and stop Iranian expansionism throughout the Middle East, whether it's in Iraq, Syria, parts of Lebanon, now in Yemen. The difference with Yemen now, Yemen is on the Arabian Peninsula, just right south of that borders Saudi Arabia. So in this sense, they are looking upon this as a direct threat to them, to their homeland. They're aware that proxy wars have been fought now for a few years, particularly in Syria. Syria is a battlefront because they have each one is this proxy war between the two. But they'll have no tolerance for that on the Arabian Peninsula. Even if that means more bombing beyond the current campaign, they will continue to do it. They will not have from their perspective, there will not be an Iranian presence on the Arabian Peninsula. In 2011, when they did their invasion of Bahrain to bring down the uprising, was particularly for that. They'll do that in Yemen, and from their perspective, they'll do it anywhere within the Arabian Peninsula.
Interesting stuff. Marco Vicenzino, thank you very much indeed for that.